My name is RamKrishna and I am your host for today. And I am a career mentor with Dheya for the last 4 years. And before that, I was having over 18 years of work-life experience in the field of information technology. So for the last 4 years, I've been doing mentoring, training, and those aspects as a full-time work. So this topic is all about 21st century skills. Well, that's a very broad, topic when you look at it. But before even we get into the topic, let's understand some context to it. So imagine if you want to drive a vehicle. If you want to drive a vehicle, what is that one key thing that you need to be able to drive a vehicle? Of course, one would say, I need to learn driving. The other answer could be, I need to have a driver's license. And there could be other answers like I need to be confident enough, I need four-wheeler, two-wheeler, anything for that matter. Consider it as a four-wheeler. And of course, you need a vehicle for all probability, right? So these are the different answers. But when you look at closely, one key being eligible to drive a vehicle is you need a driver's license. But does the driver's license give you confidence to drive your vehicle on road confidently? May not be. Having a driver's license does not mean the driver is confident to drive the vehicle. Completely, I'm talking about. Somebody will be confident only when he or she is able to acquire that skill completely. Driving is a skill that one need to acquire in order for them to confidently drive that vehicle. It is not just the license alone, the driver's license alone. So to put that into context, having driving license is having an academic qualification. And possessing that skill is the life skill that one need, is the driving skill that one need to drive their future. And all would agree with me, by just having the technical qualification or an academic qualification or a certification, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to drive your life confidently, your career confidently. But as long as a person having skill, a life skill, a soft skill you want to call it, right? So then it gives a lot of confidence along with the academic qualification, which is like an entry criteria for us to make any career typically, right? So this is the context I want to set. It is not just the driver's license, it is the driving skill. Similarly, it is not just the academic credential, it is the skill that one will possess will make him succeed in his or her career. So that's the context. Now, having said that, what is the skill all about? Skill is all about, it's pretty, widely spoken about this skill. Skill is nothing, but I want to put it in a simple term before we move on to our main topic. It's a learned ability. It's a learned ability. It's a natural talent. It's the expertise one develop over a period of time. It's a learned ability. It's the expertise one needs to develop over a period of time. One develops over a period of time. That is skill. And by the way, if you would like to add your comments or questions or anything, please feel free to use the chat box and then put your comments or questions over there. We will look into it from time to time. So that's the mode of interaction for this session. So having said, skill is a learned ability. It is a natural talent and the expertise that is developed over a period of time. So that's a skill. And skills broadly, you look at, there are soft skills and hard skills. So I would quote it as a hard skill as your academic or a learned, earned credential that you get it in a form of, undergraduation, post-graduation, or a form of certification and so on. But skill is actually which will make you ready to steer in your future, to navigate in your future. So that's a soft skill. I mean, again, soft skills are very broad in that, it's a combination of interpersonal, social communication and so on. Those are the soft skills. So that's one aspect of it. So we call this as a 21st century skills. Okay. So it is not about the survival of the strongest or the fittest. It is about the one which is most responsive to change. It is about the one which is most responsive to change. It is not just about survival of the fittest or the survival of the strongest, but it is all about the one which is most responsive to change. And this is what was quoted by Charles Darwin. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. In fact, adaptability, being able to change, embrace change, is one of the key life skill which one need to possess in 21st century. And by the way, let me remind you, we are not just talking about the students. We are talking about young adults or grown-up adults as well, or the mid-career professionals, anybody for that matter. Even it could be a primary school or a senior secondary college going or early career who have been just finished their graduation. It is applicable to any age group almost for us to be able to navigate in our lives. Of course, career is the one which occupies a lot of portion of our life. So that's why I pick up a word career most often. Keep in mind, across age groups, the life skills are going to be very crucial, or the soft skills, and a group of them put together, we call them as 21st century skills. But before even we get there, let me touch upon a point of why do we need these skills? Why do we need these 21st century skills? As you can see on my screen, the research over a period of time or the ongoing findings, surveys have been significantly proving time and again. And I've brought up some of those very important findings here in brief. World Economic Forum has quoted back in 2019, skills, not the job titles, are the new metric for the labor markets. So neither your title nor your academic qualification would suffice, but skills are going to be crucial. And Dell Technologies, and in fact, Michael Dell has quoted this few years ago, and that was a tweet, by the way, based on the Dell Technologies sponsored or participated research. 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet, and this was quoted a few years ago already. So we are preparing ourselves. We are preparing ourselves as a young adult or as a grown-up adult, or we preparing our children who are going to secondary, senior secondary schools for the future which we don't know yet. 8 years, 10 years down the line, we don't know what's in store for us. So we need to have those skills. When I say what's in store for us, we don't know what kind of jobs will exist, what kind of roles would exist, what kind of skills do we need to possess. Today's, typical academic qualification may become irrelevant 10 years down the line. Now, if somebody is taking up a career and planning their career and accordingly choosing an academic path without having a futuristic outlook, then it is going to be a suicidal. And if somebody is already in job, having spent about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and we need to be ready to embrace that change. We need to unlearn, relearn. Only then this is going to happen. So these skills are going to play a crucial role in that context. Let's look at some of those, why these 21st century skills are going to be very important. We all know that, based on the earlier, observations, the jobs and technologies that do not exist in future, we are actually going to prepare ourselves for that unknown future. Now, if you look at another important finding by Levy and Mugna in 2004, businesses, they started calling for a human workforce with expert thinking and complex communication skills, because the routine, mundane tasks will be taken over by machines. They're going to replace human beings. All that routine, manual, mundane work will be replaced by machines. So these skills are going to play a crucial role. And in other contexts, it is quoted as the illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And in fact, skills that are essential and transferable to a variety of situations are necessary for an individual to function and prosper in 21st century. That workplace, the spectrum is changing at a very fast pace. So these are some of the pointers why we need. Before I even introduce what are those 21st century skills, I want to give you enough background why we need them. It is to deal with the global competition. It is not about the local competition. It's a global competition. We are cooperating globally, virtually, physically, and information is going to be key. Data is going to be key. So information growth and economy, it is a growing service economy, and more new types of jobs and new careers are evolving. So that's very important. And bottom line, if you look at, to experience a holistic learning, and not just by acquiring an academic credential or a certification, wouldn't let that person have that holistic experience. So these skills are going to play a crucial role, and these skills will prepare us for tomorrow's success. These skills, these 21st century skills, will help us to develop that adaptability, ability to adapt changes, and we will be equipped with that potential and competence, and we will be able to better embrace and use and develop the technological changes. And most importantly, especially this is a global, cooperation. It is at a global level we are competing these days. The complex and competition. If we were to compete with that society, these 21st century skills are going to be crucial. And the change is the only one which is constant. Change is the only one which is constant, that is ever happening. If we are not willing to change, then it is going to be difficult for us. So if we were to deal with the demands, the skills what I'm going to introduce in the next few minutes, they are going to be crucial. So far we looked at what are those skills, what are the types of skills, hard skills and soft skills, and we are trying to set context of why these 21st century skills are important. Now let's look at what are these 21st century skills. Technically, what is the background? Okay, this whole thing started in early 1980s, I must say. So there's a group of people, non-profit organization and some business community, education leaders and policymakers, they all come together, and they all have come together, and then they wanted to study and understand what kind of skills do we need, what are the qualifications or qualities that our workforce should possess in 21st century. It started way back in 1980s, but by the time it is 2002, this has taken a very reasonably good shape, and they call it as a partnership for 21st century skills, or P21. And this was a formal non-profit organization that included large conglomerates like, of course, this is originated in United States, though the rest of the world started adopting to these framework. US Department of Education, Apple as a company, Microsoft, Dell, and many other organizations and non-profit organizations have joined hands in identifying what do our workforce need in future, in 21st century. So they've come up with this set of skills, which we're going to discuss in about a few minutes. And this is a broad framework, pictorial representation. It is referred to the P21 framework for 21st century learning, how it looks like, the core subjects and the themes, which involves, three different sets of skills, which we're going to look in a moment here. Now, we understood so far what are skills, why these 21st century skills are important, a little bit of technical background, how these 21st century skills have been evolved, have been found out that these are going to play a crucial role. Let's understand, how do we define these 21st century skills? Are they different from our regular skills? How are they different if yes? So let us try and define what are these 21st century skills. They are referred to as a broad set of knowledge, skills, work habits, and character traits. We call them as soft skills, right? So a broad set of knowledge, skills, work habits, and character traits that will make the individual successful in today's world. So that is the more technical definition of 21st century skills. And a little further, if we want to dwell into it, those will enable the individual to face challenges, become a global citizen. They will be equipped to digitally transform, collaboratively moving forward, and so on and so forth. They become a competent human resource in the global world. Right? So those are the typical definitions of 21st century skills. Now, according to the P21 framework, I'd like to remind you, 21st century skills topic itself is a very broad. There are many skills falling under this category, but here I'm going to refer only a handful of them which are falling under the P21 framework as we looked at the background. So there are 12 abilities. 21st centuries are the 12 abilities specifically identified by the P21 framework. And I'm going to introduce them to you in a moment. What are those 12 different abilities? Here are those. As you look at on your screen, please pay attention to my screen. There are 12 abilities or the 12 21st century skills under this P21 framework. And they are critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. Those are one set of skills. We will talk about, the categorization and all in a moment. And the next set is information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. Those are the another set of skills. Now the next set, flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. These are the other set of skills. So all three sets, they're all together called as 21st century skills. As I said, 21st century skills are the abilities qualities for an individual to succeed in their future that one need to possess. So there are 12 of them as per P21 framework, and like I mentioned, there are many other subsets to them which are coined, and they are also considered to be 21st century skills, but here we are discussing based on that P21 framework. If somebody is thinking, okay, I have another skill, doesn't that fall under this 21st century skills which is going to be crucial? Yes, more or less. If you try and tie to one of these components that you're seeing on the screen, it would definitely. So I repeat, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. Flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. These are the 12 abilities which are falling under that P21 framework, and they are called as 21st century skills. Here is a bit of pictorial representation for them, for 3 sets of them. Let us see how they are classified based on this framework. They're coined as 3 L's. As you see on your screen, 21st century skills categories, we call them 3 L's. Learning skills, literacy skills, and life skills. These are the 3 L's. Okay? Learning, literacy, and life skills. And learning skills are 4 of them. There we call them as 4 C's. Literacy skills are IMT. Life skills are FLIPS, flips. Okay, 21st century skills categories, 3 L's, learning, literacy, and life skills. Learning skills are 4 of them. There we call them as 4 C's. Literacy skills are 3 of them, which is IMT. Life skills are 5 of them, which in a short form we call them as a flips. Now we will dwell into a little bit each one of them, those 3 L's. Learning skills, what are those 4 C's? Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. These are the 4 C's which are categorized as the learning skills. So what is this critical thinking? Critical thinking is all about finding solution to problems. Finding solution to problems. And by the way, as we touch upon each of them very briefly at a high level, you would notice they are interrelated. They are interconnected. So I possess critical thinking, so I don't need to be collaborative. No, it may not work. I have critical thinking and collaboration skill. I don't need to know communication. Maybe you're challenged when you want to communicate. Right? So keep that in mind. They work in tandem. They work closely. They themselves are collaborative. All of us sitting here, the youngsters, if you are a grown-up or a student, like I mentioned earlier, any age group, to embrace our future, we need to possess this. So critical thinking, it's all about finding solution. Maybe we could call it as finding a reasonably simple solution to complex problems. Let's put it that way. Creativity. Creativity is all about thinking out of the box. If there are 10 different solutions for a given problem, come up with a new way of solving that. Right? So if you want to be creative, you need to be critically thinking. If you have to think out of the box, unless you critically think, like staying objective and only trying to solve the problem, taking emotion out of it. Collaboration is widely known. Being able to work with others. We should practice, especially in the global scenarios. If we don't know the cultural barriers or limitations when we work with the different people across the world, different countries, different cultures, different nations, different sentiments. If we don't know how to work with them, if we are not equipping ourselves and the youngsters who are going to hit their careers in a few years to come. So collaboration is being able to work with others. Communication. Now you're critically thinking individual, you have creative ideas and you can collaborate. But if you're not a good communicator, if you're not able to talk to others, convey the message in simple words to the other person, to put it in a simple language. So these are the 4 learning skills: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Each of them is equally important, and all 4 of them would need in tandem. Only then this is going to be successful. So typically, critical thinking is one of that crucial quality that one need to possess, especially when someone is willing to work in health sciences. Now, can you be emotional there? How much element of error can you allow in healthcare, in health sciences, or in health service? Absolutely zero. You have to be 100% accurate. Now, if the individual is not critically thinking, I'm just trying to give you an example of how practically it is relevant. Of course, there are many other examples, right? So being able to think out of the box, collaboration, communication, information. All of them are very essential for us to possess. So those are the 4 C's, and that is L number 1, learning skills, learning literacy, life skills, right? We talked about. So learning skills, there are 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Now let's move on to the next set of skills. These are literacy skills. When you talk about literacy, if you look at from an Indian context, financial literacy, Reserve Bank of India has put up a lot of information, a lot of content which is for the public consumption, financial literacy, right? And we keep hearing most often digital literacy as well. We need to be digitally literate. So on those lines, literacy under this P21 framework, it is IMT, information, media, technology, information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. So what we will try and touch upon in brief to each one of them. Information literacy, it is about being able to understand facts, figures, statistics, and data. That's information literacy. And if you are a critically thinking information literate person, think about it. Look at that combination. You are presented with certain information, but if you are not a critically thinking, that means anybody can take a ride on you. Now that's exactly what our media does. At the moment, momentarily, they'll ride on us in the primetime news with whatever they want to convey, and we may get engrossed so much. We will get engrossed if we don't know what is the intent behind conveying that message to us. If the media is trying to convey something, what is the intent behind that? Who is sponsoring it? What is the benefit behind it for the media or the sponsor? And how factual it is. So if we are information literacy, if we possess information literacy, then media literacy becomes very crucial. So they can't take a ride on us. You get what I'm saying? So each of those components are very important. The facts, figures which are presented to us, the statistics or data. Imagine in the beginning, I gave you some references of World Economic Forum, Dell Technologies, and few others. So those are the facts and figures with references. I'm not coming here and doing a generalized statement. I'm not here presenting some facts and figures, but I'm giving you certain references for those points as well. So that's an information literacy. When something comes in front of us, we need to be crucial. We need to be critically thinking in understanding whether that information is factual, what is the reference behind it. That's information literacy. Media is what is the intent behind and who is sponsoring, what is the benefit for that media house, and is that a sponsored news, is that a paid news, or whatever you want to call it. Media doesn't have to be only the primetime news, any social media for that. Right? The next one on that list is technology literacy. And of course, we are all great at technology literacy. We all think that we are great at the technology. We are good at the technology literacy. Simple thing is, it is in basic terms, it is quoted as being able to understand how machines work. But most of the time, we don't understand how machines work. We only understand how to open that app on our phone or on a tab or a specific website on our computer, and then move on from there, navigate from there. But actually, we need to know much deeply behind these scenes, how this technology works. We don't have to be technological experts for that matter. We need to be only literates. I know how to switch on my computer. I know how to open an app on my phone. That is not technology literacy. How that app is actually functioning, how your machine functions, what is made that machine function, that basic understanding we need to possess. And each of them individually are in itself, if we could spend an hour, 2 hours of time in understanding these each components that we are talking about, these literacy skills or the learning skills and the other skills we're going to talk in some time. So little more further, if we can help ourselves to understand, or the youngsters to understand, the facts, figures that we come across online, especially on the social media, that is what is information literacy all about, in a very brief, in a simple terms. Okay, and media literacy is all about being able to distinguish whether this is a credible news or a credible information or not. And technology literacy little further is dwelling into it. If you have a school going, primary, secondary school going boy, and you have a computer, a PC especially, let them make their hands dirty by opening that box. How many of us really know what is under the keyboard of our laptop or what is inside the LCD panel? The idea is not to become a hardware expert or a technology expert, but just be sensible enough. Let's understand if your laptop laptop or a computer has got a problem, and you call a support center depending on the brand you have, and that person comes and tells you that an LCD has to be completely replaced or some component has to be completely replaced, and this doesn't get covered under warranty, so on, so on, forth. But when you bought the product, you were told that everything gets covered under warranty except that consumables is what they typically call it. Now, it is up to us for us to be aware what is exactly gone wrong and why that require replacement, rather simply nodding to the person who's helping us over phone or coming to our rescue. So these are the components, and each one of us need, if we have not embraced that as a grown up or a mid career or an early career, which we need to do, and it is very important, we need to make our youngsters, especially school going and the secondary, senior secondary, especially that group of people, to be able to understand this. It is not just about being able to use the phone or a tab or a computer. Little one step further needs to be known. So those are the literacy skills, and technology literacy is also coined as a digital literacy too, largely. So they are like like brothers and sisters, but different names with a further spectrum, I would say. So literacy skills is IMT, information, media, and technology literacy. By the way, I've been talking, and if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box. We will spend ample time towards the end in taking up your questions. And I have another set of category before we actually get to your questions. So the next set is life skills. These are very crucial. We talked about learning, literacy, and now here you go with life skills. There are 5 of them according to P21 framework. They are FLIPS: flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. These are the 5 different skills that we call it as a life skills. This is more to deal with our personal and professional setting. Predominantly, being able to build a great personality, all that, and that will help us succeed in a professional setting. So that's the life skills we call it as. So let's understand each one of them in brief. Flexibility, or we may call it as an adaptability. What it means, we should be ready to accept the new thing that is coming our way. And of course, each one of us possesses a different personality. We may not be able to adapt to that at the same pace, but it is important sooner or later you are willing and actually adapting to that change. If you are not flexible enough, then I think it is going to be very hard. We will become obsolete in no time. In a simple terminology, if we are not willing to unlearn, relearn, then we want to become obsolete, since the work landscape is changing significantly. So in a simple form, so we need to be flexible. We need to be adaptable to the change, willing to change our plans, willing to deviate from the plan, which should suit to the requirement. So that's a flexibility. And leadership, this is again a broad spectrum. It is all about an individual being able to motivate a group of people per se to accomplish a goal. That means staying objective, being critical about reaching your goal, and then at the same time not losing that human touch, not ignoring the importance of collaboration and communication while you're critically thinking and creative, competent. If you can provide leadership, then it goes a long way. Initiative is all about the world will present with opportunities only for the people who are actually taking initiative. Even though you have a lot of technical skills, unless you are willing to take initiative, you will not be presented with opportunities. Like, who's going to answer that question? And the fastest hand goes first. As simple as that. And it is applicable in our real life. I'm sure you would appreciate that fact. So it's basically being able to take initiative in starting projects, in putting down strategies, in planning, and so on and so forth on your own. That's all about initiative. And productivity, this is an age-old, you must say, a life skill. Being efficient and effective. So being productive is what we call by barring all the distractions. So we have to inculcate this skill in ourselves. And the last but not least, social skills is again a broad spectrum. It is that one which is the ability of meeting and networking with others for a mutual benefit, right? That's a social skill. So these are the flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. And by the way, it is not these skills that we're going to learn one day and then we're going to be successful tomorrow. You're going to learn for a week and then going to be successful tomorrow. No, all these skills has to be practiced from time to time. These have to be practiced from time to time and a constant practice. For example, communication. You attend a 10-day communication skills program or a workshop or a course. Does it make you a competent communicator? Not necessarily. Like I told, you got to be gaining that confidence unless you practice. Now, I go back to my initial reference. Your technical qualification doesn't give you enough confidence to be successful unless you practice it. That's very important. So keep that in mind. The skills only not a one-time effort. They have to be constantly practiced, right? Those are the life skills for you, my friends: flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. So let's recap here a little bit, and I'm going to put that slide back. So the 3 L's: learning, literacy, and life skills, right? So learning skills are 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. Literacy skills are 3 of them: IMT: information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. And the life skills are FLIPS: FLIPS: flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. So that's the 12 21st century skills based on that P21 framework. And as I mentioned, there are few of them, a little bit subsets or superset you want to call. They would also fall under the 21st century skills. But here the idea is based on the P21 framework, which I quoted earlier, which is like a group of conglomerates, non-profit organizations who have identified them. Though it originated in US, across the world, including in India, these skills are being made part of the curriculums, the academic curriculums these days. And I must say that there are CBSE and other curriculums. They are actively looking to embrace these and put them into the curriculum sooner or later. So that's the set of skills. Now I'll open it up for questions for the next few minutes, and I hope that was useful and insight for all of you to get a high level picture. What are these 21st century skills, and what is the importance of these skills, and how and why do we need them? So the bottom line is, if we don't possess those skills, let us better practice them, and there are various means of doing it. What is our quotient according to each of those skills? So that needs to be found out. And the next thing is, what is that we need to improve if we don't possess that in certain skill, and how do we improve? It could be an online course, it could be a workshop, it could be various other forms of learning. And then how do we constantly ongoing practice these skills through activities and through various forms? That's again, it will take to a different learning experience altogether. But I want to leave you in this session with a high level picture of why, what, and how. Simple. Why do we need these skills, and what are those skills, and how can we acquire them? Acquisition is pretty simple. You can acquire them in classroom or outside classroom, but practice is going to be very key, these skills. Okay, on that note, we'll take a few questions. If there are any questions, please feel free to type in your chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay, there is a question. What if a child is not possessing one of the skills? He's shy and introvert and find it difficult to collaborate. How should we process it? So basically, by branding somebody, I would go one step behind. Why do we want to explicitly go and tell that child, you are an introvert, you don't possess this? We know for the fact that each one of us are different, and we have these, categorizations. You are an introvert, you are an extrovert, your skill is this, your skill is that. That's fine. But we don't have to repeatedly tell that that's a limitation to the child. Instead of doing that, let's go do this. If you're dealing with an introvert child, then what makes interesting for that child? He or she may not be explicitly going and networking and communicating to people. But when that child has to communicate, this is how we need to differentiate, rather than looking at it very broadly. Specifically, I would suggest we need to look at this way. Instead of expecting the child to go and network with everybody, let's look at, does the child possess communication and collaboration in a given assignment of his choice? Now, we generally expect kids to go and make friends and then, go outward and all that, which is not necessarily all the time. But assign a project. Are they working to complete that assignment or project collaboratively with other people in that group? If yes, they're doing good job there, but they are not going all the time. But it is a need basis. Are they possessing that? If yes, then they're good. Now, similarly, in that process, are they being able to communicate with that group effectively and efficiently with simple words, not complicating the things? Then it is good. Now, by default, the child may not be getting into that networking, collaborating related things, which is okay, because everyone is different. They're meant to be different, and they will be different, and they're meant to do different things. But crucially, as a parent, as an adult, if we are noticing any of our child or any child around us, and if we want to help them, let's look at it this way. This is how I would look at it. As I said, be specific. Assignment, are they collaborating or are they not collaborating? No, then it makes a difference, but not in generally being outward and all that, which is also good because some of us are good at working with people. Some of us are good at working with data. Some of us are good at data, facts, figures. Some of us would love to work with people. Some of us would love to work with technology. So each one of us will have different trait, which is okay. But as long as that collaboration, communication within that spectrum, if that is working, and I think they're good, but not in general. Everybody cannot be a public speaker, right? They may not be interested in that for that probability. But when they want to communicate, are they being specific? Are they being relevant? Are they able to communicate? Let's look at it that way. Otherwise, the world will be similar. It is not going to be different. If we expect everybody to be at the same level, it will be similar. We'll get bored. Hope that helps to set some context. So that's how I would submit. And I'm sure, any of you, would like to add your viewpoint. You're most welcome. Okay. Any other questions? We can spend a few more minutes. Okay. There's another question. Can critical thinking be learned or is it an inborn skill? If I don't possess, then what can I do to learn? Okay. Let's put it this way. Critical thinking, as we said in a simple terminology. Okay. Let's understand. There are inborn talents. We call it as a nature and nurture. If we don't have it, certain things by nature, we can nurture them to certain extent. But inborn is basically, if you put it, that's what we excel at. Naturally, I'm willing to go and be outward and outspoken and willing to talk to people. Naturally, I'm more attention to detail, data, facts, figures oriented. Right? That's our nature. Maybe nurturing is basically both of these personalities have to go a little bit further and nurture certain skills for them to be successful in their lives. So yes, even if we don't have certain of them, to the required extent, we can nurture those skills. Okay. Now coming back to the question of critical thinking, it is applicable to any skill. It is applicable to any skill for that matter, not just limiting to only critical thinking or creativity for that matter, anything. So this is applicable to any skill. Yes, it has to be learned to certain extent. You may not be an expert in it, but for survival, yes, we need them. It is very important. So critical thinking is in that sense, what do we call critical thinking? It is basically staying objective, not succumbing to the emotional aspect in the process of staying objective. So that's what, critical thinking. In other words, we can call it as a staying objective. Let's put it, in a simple way. So you don't make a judgment based on emotions. It is based on the facts and figures and analysis. So that's what is critical thinking all about. There are various tips and techniques and then procedures, how to do this, any skill to be developed. Like I said, first understand what is your critical thinking quotient. If you undergo an assessment, you get to know. Okay. And now the next level is based on that. What is that to level that you need to get to? Okay. I'll give you a simple example since you brought up that, how can I process? I'll ask you a question. Of course, I'll do a monologue in interest. So imagine there was a question being asked to you or a problem being put forward to you. Is drinking coffee good for you? The question is drinking coffee good for you? What would be the typical answer? Typical answer could be yes, no, maybe. These could be the typical answers. But when you want to be critically thinking, when you have to be critically thinking, first you need to question the question. Meaning what? The question is drinking coffee good for you? That means, first of all, what does good even mean? Good is a general statement, isn't it? The very word good itself is a generalized word. So what does good even mean? And the next thing is when we say is drinking coffee good for you, first question, what does good mean? Or define what is good in the context of this question. Now, secondly, is drinking coffee good in the long term, short term? It has to be specific, right? So some aspects of health may be good and for some it is not good. So let's reframe the question. I hope you're following. My initial question was, is drinking coffee good for you? Let's reframe that question. Is drinking coffee good for your heart? You understand? And then, I mean, of course, you can go further on and on with that question. So that is what is critical thinking. I hope I was able to give a little bit of demonstration here by picking up a simple example of whether drinking coffee is good or not, right? For some of them who like coffee, they'll say it is good. For some of them who don't like coffee, it is not good. This is again subjective, right? So critically thinking is taking out that subjectivity completely and staying objective and being more specific to it. So that's what it is. And how to develop this? There are various exercises that one could practice, any of those skill for that matter.
With this, we'll have to end it now. Thank you so much, sir, for taking up this wonderful topic, very relevant for all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care.